Hello, everyone, and welcome to a new episode from IELTS Target Bands. Today, we'll talk about how to get Band 7 in the IELTS speaking test. So, let's start talking about each marking criterion in turns and see exactly what they mean. We'll start with fluency and coherence. What does the band descriptor say? Speaks at length without noticeable effort or loss of coherence, may demonstrate language-related hesitation at times, or some repetition and or self-correction. Uses a range of connectives and discourse markers with some flexibility. What does it mean? Well, it means that you can create long answers without any major problems, and minor fluency problems would not adversely affect your score. Connectors are words such as and, however, and again, discourse markers are words such as well at the start of the sentence, and you can use many of these kinds of words. In terms of lexical resource, the band descriptor says uses vocabulary resource flexibly to discuss a variety of topics and uses some less common and idiomatic vocabulary and shows some awareness of style and collocation with some inappropriate choices. Uses paraphrase effectively. What does it mean? It means you can talk about any topic in the IELTS speaking module and you are able to give details using a variety of words. You can also use some specialized words, idioms, sayings, and perhaps even jargon terms, depending on what the questions are going to be about. You are able to use collocations such as deep blue sea, and you're very good at rewarding points. For grammatical range and accuracy, the band descriptor says uses a range of complex structures with some flexibility, frequently produces error-free sentences, though some grammatical mistakes persist. What does that mean? It means that you use a variety of complex structures, for example, which means that you don't repeatedly use a limited number of structures. And although your structures may contain mistakes, there are numerous instances of structures used without errors. Last one is pronunciation, and again, extremely vague, says shows all the positive features of band 6 and some, but not all, the positive features of band 8. As I said, the band descriptors for pronunciation are the least helpful than the others. So features are frequently mentioned, but they're never explained. So basically, for band 7, the examiner can understand every word you say, and you're using intonation and stress, both word stress and sentence stress, to help emphasize your points, and you're clearly making the correct sounds of English. Yes, even the vowel sounds. So here, the first language pronunciation has very little influence on the way you pronounce words in English. So, to summarize, what do I do to get band 7? So you need to make answers that are quite long and contain good developed points. You need to repeat yourself rarely. Then self correction or soul speech, again, are still acceptable. You should use a wide variety of connectives and discourse markers correctly and appropriately, and most importantly, naturally. Then you have to use less common vocabulary and topic specific vocabulary and phrasing, in addition to a wide variety of common words, which will enhance your score. Um, you know how to use a lot of different complex structures naturally, and most of them, around 70 to 75% of your structures, contain no grammatical mistakes. With regards to pronunciation, you know how to use stress and intonation to make your points clear, and make sure that the way you pronounce words in your first language has little influence on how you speak English. And now the next thing is, but I need to get band 7.5. Well, this is a little bit of the holy grail, because in order to get band 7.5, you need to achieve band 8 in one of the four criteria. And here, I strongly recommend candidates consult with a teacher, with an expert, to see which of the four criteria they can most easily achieve this. And since moving up from a band 7 to a band 8 in any single criteria generally requires a lot of focused work. So, since this is the last episode about speaking, let me give you some more tips for the IELTS speaking module. First of all, you need to speak clearly and try to speak at about the same speed as your examiner or as your English teacher. You have to answer the questions that you are asked and not the questions that you think or that your book or your friend or the internet says the examiner is going to ask. If you don't understand the question, ask politely, could you please repeat that, please? Or could you please rephrase that in part three? So don't just simply stare at the examiner and wait for a miracle to happen. Say something. Uh, Try to stay away from phrases like, and oh my God, and I was like, and as you know, at the beginning of every answer. Um, and at the same time, don't say that's all at the end of all answers. The intonation will let the examiner know that you have finished talking. Check the meaning of the words always and never in your dictionary, depending on the language, your first language, and use them very carefully. Don't pause too much, and especially in the middle of sentences, you can have some hesitations if you're thinking about what you're going to say. Try not to make any basic mistakes like she go or yesterday he see or there are many car, because in this kind of situation the examiner cannot give you a good grammar score if you make lots of mistakes, uh, lots of rookies mistakes for beginners. um, you will almost certainly make mistakes when using complex English, and it's totally fine. It is usually better to focus on fluency, coherence, vocabulary, and pronunciation before focusing on advanced grammar. However, you also need to practice grammar. You shouldn't neglect it. Be careful not to repeat points or words. So answer the question directly, then give a few details, an example, and then end your answer. Use connectives. Connectives are linking words such as however, in contrast, although. Use them when you move from one idea to another and use them correctly. And be especially careful with giving causes and reasons. And do not ask the examiner questions such as, do you know my hometown? Or do you know what I mean? Because it wastes his time. And aim to answer for about 30 seconds per question in part one. And then again, you should time yourself and practice a lot, 1.5 or even 2 minutes in part two. And then about a minute per question in part three. And that would be all about the IELTS speaking criteria. In the next episode, we'll be moving to writing, and we're going to talk in each episode how to get band 5, 6, and 7. Thank you very much for listening. I do hope you have found this useful. If you have, make sure you subscribe to my channel and take care of yourselves. See you next time. Bye bye.